a public speaker, or maybe you're engaging with your audience and you felt like you lost your audience for a moment in time. Maybe you were heckled, maybe you were booed. Anything can happen. But I want to share with you in this video how you can lose an audience in 60 seconds. You may be thinking, why am I sharing this with you? Because I want to make sure that you are not the person that loses your audience when you are speaking to them. This channel, if you are new to me, welcome, welcome. And if you are one of my amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. Good to see you again. This channel heavily focuses on advanced communication skills and strategies to help you be able to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you happen to be a woman in leadership, you're welcome to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org so we can talk about how we can specifically help you to be able to communicate in a more confident way when you're in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. If you happen to be a man in leadership or somebody that's thinking about leadership, I guarantee you're going to learn some tremendous value here on the channel specifically. Now, why is this an important topic? When you are a leader and you're communicating in those very under pressure, high stakes type of situations, you do not want to lose your audience. And I want to make sure that you do not do this. There's a couple ways that you can lose an audience in 60 seconds, a few ways. One, I do want to talk about very briefly that happened as a trending video that I would say, and I'll try to do a reaction video on this and go into a lot more detail in terms of how this could be resolved. But one way you can lose an audience in 60 seconds is to admittedly say you don't know what you're doing very easily. If you're speaking in front of a group of people and you state you don't know what you're doing, immediately the audience is going to completely think that you don't know what you're talking about. Let me give you an example. So there's a video that is going around where the current Vice President of the United States, JD Vance, is doing this conducting a speech in front of a group of people. And when he's doing the speech, he literally does one of the biggest public speaking mistakes that perhaps more newer public speakers would probably make, but he lost where he was in his speech. He lost it completely, was reading a speech and lost where he was in his speech and said, I forgot where I was in my speech. If you want to lose your audience in 60 seconds, do something like that. Because if you're talking to an audience and you are basically acknowledging that you don't know where you are in your speech, I guarantee you're going to lose your audience. And in this particular instance, if you watch the video, the audience actually booed the vice president because he forgot the name of the person he was speaking about, forgot where he was in his speech, and he was booed. No one wants to be booed. And the reason I mention this to you is because I don't want you to be in that situation. Now, let me know if you watching the video have ever been in a situation where you were listening to a speech. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. Maybe you were listening to a speech and you completely just zoned out. Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it because I want you all to not make these mistakes. I don't want you to make the mistake like the vice president did. This is the reason why I am so incredibly passionate about not using notes when you speak. I know it's hard. And sometimes, if you definitely are a political official, I can only imagine the massive information that the vice president receives. I cannot compare that. But when you're speaking to a group of people, it has to feel like a conversation. If it does not feel like a conversation, you will lose your audience within 60 seconds or less, and you could potentially be booed. And nobody wants to do that. All right, I want to say hello to Cat 23rd. Hello, Cat. Good to see you today. Cat says, yes, I booed. I understand. It is, and I definitely want to go into more detail on this specifically, but that's the fastest way for you to lose your audience. You can't have a customized speech for a specific group of people and you're referencing someone's name and you completely forget it. How could this been improved? How could the vice president how could he have done a little bit better? Well, one, not making that mistake. This is a very I would say just a novice public speaking mistake. This is a pretty novice mistake. You don't want to completely say, I just forgot where I was, and you're flumming through pieces of papers. You have to speak with you've either rehearsed this speech many times where you know it off the top of your head, or you speak from what you know and you speak from here, from your mind, your heart, what you want to say. These situations will always allow you to speak and not forget what you're saying because you are speaking from truth, you're speaking from your heart. So in this particular situation, he could have taken some time to rehearse his speech. If that's the case, just rehearse it. Just practice it a few times. And even if you can't practice it a few times, talk about the aspects of the country or the state that you're going to or the issue that you're talking about, just one or two bullet points, and just impromptu ad lib and just talk about it. That would help him to not fumble through papers and during a speech and say, oh, I forgot where I was, and be booed by the audience that you're talking to. It looks really bad. It looks really bad. Okay, Cat 23 says, but I was booed too when I was doing a class presentation. Cat says, I know that feeling. It's not good. Exactly. It is not a good feeling. And for someone to say they were booing, there has to, most people, there's a reason why people boo. There's a lot of reasons why people boo. And we'll talk a little bit more about this probably later this evening. If someone boos you in a presentation, there's two reasons. There's a couple reasons why. They may not like you to begin with, which could very well be true in this case with the vice president. Or you might be in a situation where there's something that was said and it maybe just did not come out the way that you wanted it to come out, and people misinterpreted what you were saying. This can happen also. This is one of the reasons why learning how to communicate in those very high stakes situations is very, very, very important. So let me go back into the chat. We have Ronald McDonald. Okay, you're being ridiculous, so you can leave. And we have Charlie Foystein. It's because you suck. I think you're talking about what I'm talking about. I hope so. You're not being rude. If you are, I will hide you from the channel really fast. Okay, Kat says, sorry for not greeting you, Doc. For not greeting. How are you doing, Doc? I'm doing fantastic. I'm always great to be live with you. So people boo because there's some emotion in terms of what you're saying, or maybe their perception of you that they just simply don't like. And that will cause the audience to be lost in your conversation. Because someone doesn't like you, that could be a reason they boo you. So we don't want you to be booed. So make sure that you know exactly what it is that you are talking about specifically. So Charlie, if you're going to say boo, that's fine, friend. You can say boo, but you don't say boo on my channel. So you can go to another channel to troll. All right, Chloe Rosie. Hello, Chloe. Chloe says, if they are laughing, it just means they're immature. Well, it could be. It just depends on the context. If you are saying some type of humor into your speech, then that's something that people may laugh about. If sometimes people are being silly, then yes, they can be being immature. So I appreciate you mentioned that, Chloe. Chloe says, I don't think a normal person will boo in an actual presentation. Well, I would say maybe not. And the reason why I say maybe not, Chloe, is because if you look at the speech that the vice president did, they booed him. And it was an actual presentation. It was a speech that the vice president of the United States did, and they booed him. So I can't, in an actual formal presentation, I can say that majority of the time people will not boo you because these are usually more professional people that are listening to what you're trying to say. However, it can happen, Chloe. It can happen in even those polished presentations. If you have somebody that does not like you, if you have something that is a very polarizing topic that people have very different opinions on, you could easily be booed. This is why they call those individuals potentially hecklers if they're making a big ruckus and maybe they're starting the booze. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it doesn't happen in presentations. Chloe, you'd be surprised. Cat 23rd said that it actually happened to Cat in a presentation. So sometimes people unfortunately do things like that. We have Locke Ms. Mersey. Hello, welcome, welcome. And Ralph, Ralph is saying ridiculous stuff. You just gotta get better because you stink. I'm gonna hope that you are talking about our topic and you're not talking about me, because I will hide you from the channel. I don't deal with trolls under the bridge. Okay, Locke says, how are you doing? I'm doing fantastically well. Chloe says, if they are in school, then I could see that. Yes, absolutely. Chloe says, I'm not from even American, and I would boo him too, though. I think a lot of people probably feel that way, Chloe, right now. Locke says, which state are you in? I am in Florida. Chloe says, that's the word, hecklers. Yes, exactly, Chloe. Cat 23rd says, well, I feel like it was my fault in a way because my presentation was kind of against what they stood for. And sometimes that actually will happen. If it is a very polarizing topic, as you mentioned, Kat, people may feel that way. So how do you respond? I know this isn't what we were talking about specifically, but we talked about a couple ways you can lose an audience. One is if you go completely off script and say you don't know what you're saying. Two, if you make it seem as if your speech was not, you didn't take the time to prepare to speak to someone, which happens sometimes. And this is the reason why you will lose your audience. If your audience feels for the least little bit that you are coming to talk to them and you are doing a very canned, templated type of speech, thank you for the heart emojis, friends, then you will automatically lose your audience. They don't feel like you're talking to them or that you even care about them. And this situation that happened with the vice president was a really good example of that. Now, it's a little bit different in terms of what Kat mentioned, because Kat specifically mentioned the topic was something that they didn't stand for. Now, that's different. That's something that will happen. But in the case of the vice president, it came across as he just completely didn't prepare for this speech to talk to these people that potentially voted for him. And that in itself is a reason why people will lose an audience in 60 seconds or less. The audience is very smart. All of us are very intelligent individuals, and we can pick up relatively quickly if the person we're speaking to actually cares about us or if they don't. And in this situation, it came across as that person didn't really care because they didn't take the time that was needed to just prepare for the conversation. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention also specifically as it relates to preparing for speeches, rehearsing it enough, or being able to commit some things to memory so that when you're speaking to a group of people, it appears as if you're speaking to them in terms of having a conversation instead of reciting a speech, will always make you stand out as a leader. 100% guaranteed. If you go to an event and you read a piece of paper and you're just reading a piece of paper, can the paper be really great in terms of the speech? Sure, it can. But if you're trying to be that more exceptional type of speaker, which is the reason why you are hopefully subscribed to my channel, then I'm sharing with you what will make you stand out. There's a lot of people that come to events with papers, their script, their speech. I personally don't do that. I will make sure that I know the information that I need to know and prepare in advance. Therefore, when I'm speaking in front of a group of people, it's all here in my head. It's not something I'm looking at a piece of paper for. I don't, you can do that and there's nothing wrong with it if you're just starting out on your speaking journey. But if you're really trying to become exceptional, truly exceptional, and really stand out from everybody else, then follow what I'm saying. It will completely change the game. Now, you may be wondering, well, what if I forget what I said? Guess what? We all do. All of us do that are very accomplished public speakers. We may not say every single thing we want to say, but we say the aspects of our speech, our presentation that are very important. Only the audience knows what you are telling them. The audience doesn't know that you had 10 other things you were going to say and you forgot 5 of them. The audience does not know that. And a lot of times, this is the reason why people are so terrified of speaking in front of other people, because they feel as if they're going to forget what they're going to say, they're going to make someone upset, etc. These things happen very, very often. And Kat, in your case specifically, when you're in those very highly polarizing situations where you're speaking about something people don't stand for, don't take it personally. Those individuals simply did not agree with how you communicated or what your thoughts were. The fact that they booed you just shows how immature in this case that they were. You don't necessarily have to agree with someone to the point where you need to boo them. If they do something completely ridiculous like the vice president did, then I can see someone booing them. But because you're talking about a topic that is something that is perhaps different or maybe a different perspective, doesn't really mean somebody needs to boo you. So don't take it personally. It happens. But this is the reason why this happens from time to time. Okay, we have, let's see, Ronald McDonald. Look, if you don't, Ronald McDonald says, what? You should just stop yapping. Well, guess what, Ronald? That's why you're a troll under a bridge. So that's why you will not be on this channel. You can watch something else and go to another channel and troll. Okay, Kat says, well, I had to continue speaking, couldn't let them stop me. Exactly, Kat. And I want to give you a high five for doing that, because that is very challenging to do. It's very difficult to be in a situation where someone's booing you and to continue. So I give you so much credit for that, because many people, Kat, they would have completely frozen and stopped their speech in the middle or their presentation, and they would have walked off stage. I really appreciate you sharing that, because you can do this when you have those situations and you're in those very under pressure situations. Because Kat, that's definitely under pressure. If someone's booing you in a presentation and you have the ability to continue, that says a lot about you as a speaker, and that you are at the point where you can manage some of those more challenging situations when they come up, because most people would not have been able to do that. All right, Kat says high five back. All right, awesome. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later today. If there's any other topics you want to learn about, let me know. This was more of a trending topic, so I wanted to talk about it very briefly, because I don't want you all to make mistakes like that. I just don't want you to make mistakes like that, especially if you are subscribed to my channel or you follow my content and you watch my videos. I truly do want you to be that person that can communicate at that higher level than your peers, and that can communicate confidently and concisely under pressure. And having these real-time situations that actually come up in real time is the best way that I can show you or explain to you that there's certain ways that you can communicate, but there's certain ways that you don't want to communicate. When I get everything set up with my studio, I will definitely do a lot more reaction videos to situations like this, to give you an in-depth analysis as to points that you can use to help yourself when someone makes these mistakes, and things that you can do to make yourself really stand out as a speaker. Okay, Kat says, I hope I'll be able to make it because school has been stacked. I'm sure you're probably in exams, so I can only imagine how busy it is right now. Kat says, I missed a lot of your live sessions lately. No problem. They're all here live recorded. I have them uploaded onto my YouTube channel. So just take care of yourself. Make sure you get the grades you need to get for your college, and I'll be here whenever you come back. All right, we have Paul. Hello, welcome, welcome. All right, so we'll talk about this a little bit more this evening. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate my amazing subscribers like Kat being present as well. Thank you for the heart emojis, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.